So one of my favourite things to do recently has been sitting at the piano or at my computer, improvising at the keyboard, but trying to keep a particular image or a texture or a mood and really trying to stay with it. I think oftentimes when I sit down and just noodle with no particular agenda, it's easy to lose focus, and it's sort of fine, and I definitely allow myself to just meander around quite a lot. But if there's somebody else listening in particular, I like the idea of just staying a bit more with a single idea. I can still develop things, but essentially it's just a little bit of extra discipline, I guess, that's going on in my mind when I sit down to play. So with that in mind, I thought I'd experiment with something that I've been playing with, bringing up YouTube videos of ambiences and then improvising around them, and particularly choosing sounds and building myself a little patch, which I'll share a bit of the process as well as we go along. So building a patch, improvising a bit with it, exploring the musical possibilities of the patch that I create, and it reminds me of the kind of imaginative games that I used to play all the time as an only child growing up. I would close my eyes on long car journeys and imagine that the sounds that I was hearing was actually the sounds of a rocket ship or a space station or something, and all the kind of rumbling and the whoosh. So there's a channel that I particularly like called Ambience Lab that is all sound design as opposed to field recordings. Post-apocalyptic, sci-fi, observation deck, magic school. So what am I feeling? I'll just pick one fairly randomly. How about, let's go with Atlantis underwater ambience, 2 hours. I love that luminous quality. So I guess what I would do is maybe start with think about something a bit paddy, maybe like a warm synth pad or something, and then think about maybe how I could make that shimmer, and think about a melodic element that I could also manipulate at the same time. So let's grab something I've got called warm sine pad, I think it is, or sine loop sine pad. This is aquarium music. And I'll put the ambience on while I'm working. So it actually has there's some siren calls or some little mermaid singing type sounds already embedded into this one. So I think what I'm going to do is add some low droplet sort of sounds, like large bubbles. I'm thinking hang drum. And I think I'm going to use Divisimate for this. Let's put this in Divisimate port 1, and I'll create something going to port 2. I think that's going to be maybe like a marimba layered with a hang drum, perhaps. So this is a hang drum sound. A hang drum looks like this, by the way. You might have seen one. I like it because it's, especially when it's slapped or you hear the skin against the metal, I really like that sound, which you don't really get on a steel pan, for instance. Maybe let's try doing one down the octave as well. In fact, I might try just pitch shifting it down the octave, see what that sounds like. both. And with the marimba as well. Cool, it's getting somewhere. It's a little bit too aggressive at the moment, so I'm just going to take a load of top end off. Actually, I quite like the idea of being able to play with that in real time, so I might assign that to a controller. I'm going to make the steepness of the curve quite aggressive, I think. Maybe do something like that. So you get a bit more of like a filter sweep kind of effect. Because that always makes me think, you know, water often makes those kinds of sounds, you know, that kind of resonant. I'm being quite literal here in my approach, but it's just a jumping off point. Let's add a bunch of reverb, because that's always fun. So this is going to be called drops, this layer. And now in Divisimate, I'm going to go channel 2 is drops, channel 1 is pad. Let's do just left hand drops, right hand pad. Okay, and I think probably I want to drop this an octave. So this, if you don't know, this keyboard down here shows what I'm actually playing. But because I've got a transposer on here, it's actually sounding an octave below that. So I need to actually add another transposer to the bottom here, put it up an octave. So that pad feels a little bit loud at the moment, and also it's a bit slow to react, so I'm going to adjust the attack and release envelope. That's better. Maybe a little bit less. So I'm just designing this all for real-time performance right now. And what I might actually do is use my breath controller. Cool. Now what I want is not for it to cut out completely. It's doing CC11 at the moment. I want to modify the incoming CC11 so that it always adds a little bit so that way when I hold it down you still have some level, but then when I blow great, yeah, now I feel like I have the ability to add some nice swells in real time without affecting the level of the drops, by the way, because I've added a modifier to each of these channels which sends the CC11 signal somewhere else. That's fun. I wonder what other things we could try with this sort of sound set. Something a bit more upbeat. I guess it's quite intense because of that reverb. The low end tends to build up quite easily. It can get a bit kind of mushy. So if I wanted to try something a bit more fast paced, maybe I should just try cutting a load of low end. And maybe I could try displacing the pad so that it's actually producing more of the low end. Kind of switch up the rolls a little bit. Cool, and then that's nice, because now when I use the filter, it's much more audible because we have more high frequencies that are getting attenuated. That's just quite fun in and of itself. I might just try reducing the tail of the hang, or both of the hangs, like that, so much more staccato. Let's try adding an echo to that, at the risk of complicating things. See, I don't actually like the echo that much because it feels like it's giving me less control rather than more. It gives me more flavour if I want to do one thing, but I'd rather, I don't know, do the echoes a bit more manually, like, with a bit more intention, you know? If I want complexity, I'd rather go, rather than have an echo delay plugin make notes for me. I just feel like it depends on the situation, of course, but I love having as much real-time control as easily as possible. Something lovely about just having tactile control over the sounds. Something a little darker, maybe? Let's try taking that down an octave. Oh yeah, I took out all the low end.